Now that you've decided on the story as a group of 4 gentlemen, how did you go about writing the actual compositions? Because everything is pretty seamless. It flows really
3 gentlemen and a heck of a lady. Because it was Laurent and Ed and Andromeda and I over here at breakfast around their table, rolling up the sleeves.
Yes.
With a big scroll of paper.
Yeah. So was Andromeda involved in the musical compositions at all, or
Definitely.
strictly the lyrics?
No, she was not. Because we wanted to write for her.
Okay.
For her voice.
Yeah.
And you know, when the vocalists compose something, they write music they are able to sing.
She wanted it a lot simpler.
We wanted to go further.
Yeah, of course.
You know, to not just reducing the writing of the music because she wants to go that way, to not take too many risks. And she didn't even know how far she could go.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was still working her voice, like screaming growls. It was not ready yet when we started. It's like she started with Kilter when we invited her.
Mm-hmm.
It's like at the beginning when I met her, she was not really singing that way, and she started to learn. And then for the opera, it was like, okay, we really want to write everything on paper, and we need to work with her. When we met with Andromeda to work, it's like with Ed, with the piano, and we tried things. What's the highest notes you can do? What kind of rhythm you can sing? What kind of noises you can make with your voice? How can we give the impressions she's building her voice in the limbos, things like this. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
And then we were able to write some music, you know, because of her voice. But she didn't write it, not this time.
Okay.
I'm going to crosstalk him a little bit here because yes, he's absolutely right. But in terms of the nuts and bolts of the dots on the page, yes. But what was really neat about the compositional process was the 4 of us sitting around, like, also when you say, was it the lyrics or the music? And we had a Venn diagram kind of experience of word and music, which to me that's when shit gets good, you know, whether at the opera or anywhere else. And we kept making reference to Mozart and Da Ponte and stuff about like where the words kind of were the music, or as they said about Mozart and Da Ponte, where the words cap off the idea that is already completely expressed in the music, but the words are coming first here. So all of which is to say that although I think I did a pretty good job of backing off and shutting up about the music. First of all, I don't know anything about jazz, which was good. So I didn't think I was like qualified to say, I think you should have a fermata there, you know, or whatever. No, shut up. But we literally took a scroll of paper and unrolled it. And I was saying like, well, I'm imagining something really big here and loud and raucous. And here I want you to give me the full pots and pans. And also in the vocal numbers, we had models for them that you wouldn't know if I didn't tell you, like you wouldn't hear it. But there was one that I was saying, this to me, what I wrote is Bertolt Brecht, Kurt Weill song. And Andromeda got whatever women get as a boner. She was like, yes, okay. And if you put it on, you would say like, that's not Kurt Weill. And bro, your words aren't Bertolt Brecht. But that was the structure we were looking at. And in other places it was this, and in other places it was that. And really to an intense degree, like saying, okay, here I'm picturing this, death and transfiguration here, you know, right here, give me Wozzeck, give me some Wozzeck interludes right here. And Ed was really on board with that. And then they came out like nothing that's in Wozzeck, but structurally, that was the point of departure. So in that way, and Andromeda was way in on that from like I was from the words. So, while he's absolutely true that she did not compose while we were giving birth to this story, there was a lot of music in the structure that then they did what they want with. Did that make any sense at all?
Made some sense, yeah. I mean, so it wasn't like, Laurent, you didn't come in with the full opera musically and then say, okay, write the words. It was very much a collaboration of like, here's one of the sections and here's what we are hearing for the vocals or the noises or screams or whatever. Is that kind of how the process was built? Back and forth?
It was, yeah, that's true. It was a lot of back and forth.
Okay.
You sent me a song once and said, can you do lyrics on the, that was once.
Yeah.
And then you liked what I wrote and you said, okay, great, write the rest of them. I was like, and then I did. And some of which I'm sure he had musical ideas already. And a couple we changed a little to fit the music, but yeah, so it was back and forth.
But at the first place, we had to decide who is doing what, because that's so big. So you can't just see what is, it can't be.
He still does, because I always want to direct it.
Oh, what?
You still do that, because I always want to direct it.
Yeah. I know. It's like, no, that's good, because everybody can say something about anything. That's not the point. But there is a final decision by somebody. Mm-hmm. Like, Will is always the guy to whom we are asking, it's okay if we remove that sentence here because the music is, is deciding if we can do that or not.
Yeah.
It's like, and we had to find a solution. Like it's not only about the music, it's also about the production. So it's like, and depending of the time we have, like the three composers are myself, Ed Rosenberg III, and Kenny Gwarowski. But not in the same percentage,
Yeah.
Because of time, because of also how we were involved in the project, in the process. And I'm also a producer, so I told to myself, okay, you know what, you can't do everything. So Ed had the final decision about not the final decision, but he had to make all the arrangings and most of the composition, depending on what we wrote with Kenny and things like this. Mm-hmm. And I had the final decision for everything about the production, but also about the final scores. Like, okay, we have to change that because I wrote different things for the strings and Ed took them back and changed them. It's like, it was always like a back and forth like this. But we knew who is doing what, Even it was like with a lot of interaction.
Yeah.
Like, even you, because when he wrote all the lyrics and the libretto, it was a lot of indication about the music. That's what you said before. And he thinks we didn't use anything, but we did.
No,
because even if it's written, it's like we will not go to that direction, or we will take it, or just a part of it. But it's an idea we can use.
Yeah.
Basically, you did exactly what I wanted.
Is that something?
You just can't let him know it.
It was very surprising because we worked a lot, every week, and we had Ed. It was like, but Will was right. It's like from the very beginning, the first version of the libretto, it was like there is already everything, and we didn't really notice that at this moment because it was so huge. Everything to understand the music, the lyrics, the story had the different layers of the story as well. It was so complex that was amazing at the end. Okay, in fact, there is everything since the beginning. That's what you said. It's like everything was on the same page.
I was thinking in terms of when we were sitting down working in terms of shapes.
Yeah.
And like big, intimate, focused, pots and pans, melodic, like that, but shapes.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I really wanted to experiment all the sketches of the music on stage, And that's why I organized a lot of showcases, that small gigs with only Kilter, with Andromeda, just with Seven Sons, and in Canada and Montreal with the Koalos Choir only, things like this, to see how it sounds. And when you see the very beginning of the composition, like the sketches, easy things, easy forms, we take part of them and it's in the final version, I really wanted the audience to be present when we started the thing. Then we know what is working, what is not working, what is good, what is not good. And we still do that, in fact. Because when we played in New York last January, it was not even finished.
No, it wasn't like, the whole like climax of, well, so what happens? Well, we'll take that later.
We'll see that later. So people were asking, what's happening in the story? Something is missing.
Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, but we didn't have time.
Yeah, I never heard the whole thing on stage until a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Paris, yeah.
Yeah. Now it's over. Almost. Because now we have the concert version with 14 people on stage. But when we will have to organize the opera version with many people,
dancers,
we will need more music, like maybe 30 minutes more.
Really?
Yeah, 20 to 30 minutes, because it will also be some dancers and maybe like staging, a bit more staging.
Yeah.
So we will need more music, I guess.
Oh, hell yeah.
So it's not over, really. But the music is existing now.
Yes, yes.
And you know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're doing vinyl together on my label, Silent Pendulum Records, and we have the Kilter album, which is the trio plus Andromeda, and then we also have the full opera. So going back to the writing process about this, when you were writing and rehearsing and doing the first gigs as a trio and Andromeda, were you writing the strings simultaneously and the growlers choir, or were you just kind of conceptualizing that there will be strings? Was it like an immediate writing process, or was it kind of like an afterthought once you had the full concept and full score happening?
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing that too.
Yeah, in fact, everything was in parallel.
Okay.
It's like when we did that EP, we were on tour in India, Germany, for Europe for 3 weeks. And during the tour, we were writing some music for the opera, something that we were missing at this moment, but it was on process. Yeah, we knew that it was some strings there, and the Wallace choir there. But for the EP, it was like we always do that when we are on tour with Kilter. It's like we always keep one day to record some music, always, and then we have material for the next. The next steps.
Okay.
So the EP version, they are more. I would say that the opera version, like the double album, it's really produced. Like okay, I really thought about where to record it, with the size of the room, how it has to sound. I want the string quartet in that studio, the trio in that studio, not somewhere else. But for the EP, it was like, okay, we are in a small room, we record, like no editing, nothing, like we just rock. And that's why it's so different, the both versions, like the trio versions. And there is also different scores. For example, Song of the Countess or some interludes as well. They are different on the EP and on the double album. Yeah.
And I think that's also a testament to how well written the entire project is, that it's effective as a trio with Andromeda and a vocalist, or as the full opera. It's still equally as effective in a small jazz club or a small studio or in a theater.
Yeah, we have to adapt a bit the scores, but it works, of course, because the trio is the heart of it, the core. It's the core of the project. So it's like when there is that, and just that it's working, and just that with voices is working, and when you can add a lot of people, and it's more and more impressive.
You must have written it like that, because I remember talking about this when we were talking about structures and models and coming up with, people have done that before, like, well, we can't get this opera produced right now because it's too ambitious, so we'll put out this song cycle and get that around, and then that in some cases turned out to be as big of a thing as the complete opera in its own way, because it's a different perspective. So,
but that's the same with a real opera.
Yeah,
because most of the time you can just have it like just the voice and piano.
Well, I was thinking again. We had talked about Kurt Weill and the Mahagoni Singspiel, which gets done a lot more than Rise and Fall of the City of Mahagoni, which is amazing when it gets done. but because it's so massive and hard to produce, that this song cycle gets done a lot, and then it works in a different way. It's a different animal. So yeah.
So I would like to ask you a little bit more about your process in writing the libretto, because it's a piece of literature that accompanies the opera, right? And I think it's impeccably written. Your personality is all over it. I love it. And I think it's a really important companion piece to the opera itself, especially for someone who might just hear the music or see the performance and kind of be like, what's going on here? So can you just tell me a little bit about your process in writing that, and also some of your goals with writing that?
Second part of that's going to be interesting because I don't know. But in writing it, well, I started from music, and I started from the conversations I had with the three of them about what do we want here. And here here's a ballad. You wouldn't know it's a ballad when you hear it, but I wrote it. So I wrote that, in meter and I believe some rhyme. Yeah. And then knowing that they could do whatever they want. It didn't come out, well, a little bit, but not, kind of the Foursquare church hymn kind of thing that I might have based it on. And that actually was a Kurt Weill song that I just was like, all right, so we got 7 beats here and 5 and 7 and 5 and then 11 and 11. Okay, great. Because that works. That gets us a weird feeling this way there, so I'm going to go with that. So a couple of things were like that. Others were not. We're like, now we need to just put it out there and so on. But I needed to know what we were doing in the music, and then I wrote it that way in terms of, all right, is this how many meters per line or non-metered line or whatever. And as far as the story, one of the things that came out while we were working on the scroll, the Great Scroll, was something that I wish a lot of people with new operas would do more of. I work in that world. And that is simplify it. Jettison the subplots, jettison, and all your genius thoughts. And so I wrote this book with the libretto in it and essays about it because I needed a place to say, to put all of my genius moments, everything that I thought I needed to say. And I did. I needed to say it, but I didn't need to say it in the opera. That if it was subtext, that's okay. So there's that. And that was pretty much my process. And it went fast. It went really fast, which I didn't expect it to. I mean, there were a lot of rewrites.
Yeah.
But just like to have a story from A to Z or wherever it goes, it flew out. It, like a lot of this process, it kind of took care of itself. What was the second part?
Just some of your goals and aspirations with writing this and the way you wrote it with interviewing some of the members and also adding so much of your personality and experience in it as well.
Okay, well, the first part was, is that, like I said, it all had to come from the music. One thing that I think is a real problem in English language music drama is that because we have this supreme tradition of literature in the English language, the world's greatest, I'll just say that, sometimes you get people writing librettos trying to write a literary masterpiece instead of something that needs to be sung. So I tried to keep, not that I expected to write a masterpiece, but I tried to keep focused the singability of it. It was neat that it's a monodrama, that we had one soloist and a chorus. The chorus was a blast to write for, absolute blast, but still. So I didn't have to really do dialogue except between her and them, which is antiphonal and has basis in liturgical writing, which made a whole lot of sense in the feel and all that. My goal is that thing I was talking about of crossing borders.
Yeah.
This is a story, and I feel strongly about this. This is a story about knowing that a lot of the walls that we think are there to our lives and our deaths are constructs.
Yeah.
And that's very current for me right now. I'm an activist and all this, and arts are my activism. And I get that disrespected from the right and the left equally, who don't really deep down in this country believe that arts are significant.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm talking
course,
about
yeah.
because you're a professional artist too. And, just I'm always going on about why does the New York Times persist in having arts and leisure section? Why isn't it arts and ideas? And then your investing can be your leisure activity when you're done with the truly important work of thinking of ideas. And that's how I look at it. And that's been weird lately with a lot of my fellow activists. But so the fact that this was political to me, we didn't want to make it any more blatantly political in the words than I feel it already is, just in the idea of transgressing. But the fact that it is as political as it is was very, very important to me. And then the fact that it could come through in many cases without me having to say it and writing boring, stupid lefty agitprop, which I think is, lame, better to do nothing. But which is what, left to my own devices, if I weren't collaborating, where I might have gone with it. I feel that was accomplished better than I knew it could have been.